Beautiful day here in Tuscaloosa. A-Day. Alabama split between crimson and white. The reigning college football playoff national champions, as Nick Saban will be chasing history this year. Only two coaches with at least 5 national titles. Bear Bryant the other. Spring game rules. Players wearing black jerseys are not live. You will see punts and kickoffs, but you will not see live returns. Running clock except for the last 4 minutes of each half. We're using 15-minute quarters, a 12-minute halftime, and you will see a lot of players in and out, and position battles that'll have changes throughout. We hope to see a good chunk of all 4 who are in the midst of this quarterback battle. As we are underway here in Tuscaloosa, Ardarius Stewart, the return man, will just whistle him as Stewart looks to play a key role as a receiver this year. Nick Saban, his 10th season at Alabama, 100 wins framed against only 18 losses. And Kirk and Joey, he made the comment to reporters this week, said to the media, nobody here ever thought that I'd be here for a 10th A-Day. Well, here he is, contented in Tuscaloosa.
And has really built himself, as we've talked so many times about. He doesn't like that word dynasty, but I think we all do, because we're recognizing from that 2009 season on, they've kind of set the bar in college football. And it's amazing the consistency that they have year in and year out.
Cooper Bateman, the first quarterback that we will see, and I think a lot of Bama opponents will see plenty of Bo Scarborough taking over for Derrick Henry as the big back. The quarterback battle shapes up this way. Blake Barnett, Cooper Bateman, who started the Ole Miss game last year, David Cornwell, and the true freshman, Joey, Jalen Hurts, who this staff is very high on.
You know, and it's interesting when you hear a coach say that he is a thrower that can run the ball, and that's what they say about Hurts, is he is a quarterback first with terrific athletic ability. And when you're thinking quarterback, we all think about these dual threat guys, and most of them run better than they throw. If Hurts can be as good as they say he is, the fact that he throws it as well as they say, then he could be a special Deshaun Watson type of quarterback.
For now, it's Cooper Bateman in there, Kirk, and Coach Saban, obviously this time of the year, I mean, everything's about competition leading to fall, but he made the comment recently, said, if we had to play today, it would probably be Cooper, but we don't have to play today.
No, that's strictly based on the experience that he has compared to the other 3 quarterbacks.
Here's a 3rd down and 6. Bateman's first opportunity as the pressure was able to get to him as he tried to check down. And that's Ryan Anderson, who's been a top performer when it comes to getting after the quarterback.
Incredible to think, as we get ready for the NFL draft in about, 2 or 3 weeks, think about some of the defensive linemen and the defensive personnel that you're going to be seeing drafted from this Alabama championship team of 15. But if you look at the personnel, including Ryan Anderson and the rest of the players that they have coming back, they're going to be just as talented, if not more so, in 2016 up front.
Now, speaking of talent, the ultra-talented Denver, Colorado product, J.K. Scott, to punt away here as the Crimson offense, that's the number 1 offense facing the number 1 defense with a 3-and-out.
This is fun.
So it gives us a chance to see Blake Barnett. Now, Barnett is a redshirt freshman from California. And Kirk and Joey, if you talk to those surrounding the program and those who keep touch with all things Bama, this is the guy who many thought would stamp himself this spring, but there have been some ups and downs.
Absolutely. And I think everybody assumed even last year he was in the running to beat Coker out for the job, and that last scrimmage cost him the starting position. I think if people thought it'd be a foregone conclusion, he would win this job this spring, but that's not been the case so far.
Good run this time by Damian Harris. Remember, Harris was a 5-star recruit, came in a year ago.
Tess, I know people are excited about Scarborough because of his size. He's very similarly built to last year's Heisman Trophy winner Derrick Henry. But Damian Harris was the top back in the country a year ago. More of a Mark Ingram type. A lot of suddenness and quickness in the hole.
Another look at Harris. Not as much that time, just a gain of 2. Coach Saban visiting with him yesterday. He's fairly pleased with the level of competition this spring. Harris from Kentucky, 5'11", 214. Set Second and 8. And not much on the inside. O.J. Smith, among others,
Tess,
getting to him.
Worth reminding people, by the way, Joey and I standing right here next to Coach. We don't get this view very often when we're doing games. Pretty cool. But remember, you already said it earlier, but right now Blake Barnett is fortunate to be working with the offense, with the one offense going up against the 2 defense. And on the other side, you're just to remind people over and over, different teams break spring games down differently. This is not a draft. They do 1s against 1s and 2s against 2s.
Here's a 3rd down throw, and that is complete for a 1st down to Derek Heath. And as Barnett gets himself off to a decent start there.
That's why it's fun being down here on the field to see that angle. You could see the receiver come open in the window that Barnett threw that ball into with nice timing and squeezed it into a hole. And you don't have big, wide gaps in this Alabama secondary. Great throw by Barnett.
Welcome those of you who just watched the Pacers and the Raptors Game 1. Joe Tessitore, Kirk Herbstreit, and Joey Galloway here in Tuscaloosa on A-Day, the Alabama spring game. The reigning college football playoff national champs, as we've seen the white team offense going up against the crimson team defense. This is Blake Barnett, one of 4 quarterbacks vying to replace Jake Coker. And Damian Harris, who already had an 18-yard run, now adds to his early total. Damian Harris, as well as Bo Scarborough, the running backs in line to replace the Heisman Trophy winner, Derrick Henry. Just a reminder, the spring game rules we're using. Black jerseys, you'll see quarterbacks and players who have been dealing with injuries. They are not live. They will not be taken to the ground. They will punt and they will kick off, but not live on special teams returns as well. You see Coach Saban, his 10th season at Alabama, in the electric blue sport coat today. Easy to see, always behind the ball, right next to Kirk and Joey. As Harris takes it to the 10-yard line.
Yeah, I feel like we have the best view in the house right now. You mentioned Coach Saban, Joey and I right here behind the action, watching this second unit offense move the ball pretty well under the guidance of Blake Barnett. Joey mentioned a couple good throws. Damian Harris has had a few good runs as well.
Yeah, this view, and you can see Coach is as serious as if it's game day
Absolutely.
in the ball. He has his game face on. Me and Kirk back here with this view. It's great to see these offensive linemen work up front. We know how important the running game is to Alabama. We see these offensive linemen open up holes.
Here's Barnett underneath to the 5-yard line as he's able to get it complete to Miller Forrestall. Forrestall's a good-looking freshman tight end, guys.
They feel that they're going to have 3 tight ends this year. You'll probably see more of the 2 tight end look from Alabama. Everybody knows about O.J. Howard and what he did last year in the national championship game, but I think they feel pretty comfortable, especially with the freshman as a guy that could even flex out, try to give defenses some matchup problems with his size.
3rd down and 4 as Barnett is out of the gun with Damian Harris in the backfield, who has 42 yards on his opening drive. Unable to handle that snap, and then they will whistle it down at the 19-yard line.
Snap is high. One of the things that the coaches want to see from Blake Barnett is consistency. I know the snap is high, but if you talk to the coaches, the thing that has held Blake Barnett back from taking over and asserting himself as the guy is turnovers. Now, this one isn't necessarily his fault. It was really more of interceptions throughout spring. But he's got to do a better job, especially there's a big opportunity inside the 10-yard line, and now they have to settle for a field goal.
And center is one of those positions that Alabama's looking to replace. And we talk about, spring ball. These are the moments that some of these centers will have a chance to show. You have a bad snap in the red zone, that will drive coaches nuts just like a turnover.
Now Adam Griffith unable to connect at the end of that drive. For those watching on ESPN News, we invite you to join us over on ESPN. More from Tuscaloosa when we return. history-rich Tuscaloosa. Look at Denny Chimes here at the Capstone. We are in T-Town. Joe Tessitore, Kirk Herbstreit, and Joey Galloway with you for the Alabama spring game. They got a new defensive coordinator, Jeremy Pruitt, who had been on Saban's staff, comes back here from Georgia, previous to that at Florida State. The quarterback competition is underway. We have seen Blake Barnett. We will get our second look at Cooper Bateman in moments. And, of course, looking for depth, looking to replace plenty of talent that is off to the NFL. So here is Cooper Bateman, 6'3" junior from Utah, who started Bama's lone loss last year, that against Ole Miss. And he's able to get the day started connecting with Ardarius Stewart.
You know, Tess, the experience that he gained last year, even though it was in a loss against Ole Miss, that experience allows him to come into this spring as kind of the elder statesman of the bunch, and I think it allows him to calm down in this kind of setting with a big crowd, and I think that's what has given him the leg up so far in this four-man competition this spring.
Yeah, I think the way you just framed that is definitely the right description. Coach Saban yesterday, as Scarborough takes it, was taken down at the line of scrimmage off the right side. But Coach Saban, Joey, yesterday framing this as, listen, when you're well prepared, when you know what you're doing, it's easy to be confident, and that's what they've been seeing with Cooper Bateman.
Absolutely, and it is tough. If you're a young quarterback, and we'll talk about, you know, all four guys today, if you don't have game experience, this is when you have to get it. In the spring, this is your chance to show these coaches that you are prepared. You can get your offense into the right play. You can make the right read and get the ball out. We just saw Bateman roll out and throw the ball on the money to the sideline. And because play-action pass is such a huge part of this Alabama offense, you have to be good at the play-action pass and getting the ball out on the money. And Bateman has been that guy so far in the spring.
You know, Bateman's just had to deal with the very disruptive Tim Williams, who accounted for 10.5 sacks last year. And once again, the number one offense, the Crimson team is the number one offense against the white team with the number one defense, quickly off the field, another 3 and out.
That defensive pressure, even without necessarily having to bring blitz, when you have Anderson and Williams up front, they get in there in a hurry. That was screened. It had no chance.
And that was a difference in this defense last season. They could get there with their front four. You can get there with your front four on any defense, especially one as talented as Alabama, leaving 7 in coverage. Tough to beat defenses that can do that.
Yep.
Well, an NBA playoff game 1 got this Sports Saturday started, and there is more to come. At 7, it is the Celtics and the Hawks. Then Dirk and the Mavs against the Thunder, and both games are streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. The job Brad Stevens has done with the Celtics and Isaiah Thomas. Great story bubbling up there in Boston.
Opportunity here to see the true freshman. His mid-year enrollee, Jalen Hurts. This is a guy that's really had a big spring for a young guy, number 2.
Jalen Hurts, the true freshman from Texas, as Damian Harris slips down. You know, Herbie, you and Chris Fowler were talking plenty about him when we were getting ready for the national title game, because this is a young man that joined the team in time to help them prepare for Clemson. He was the scout team quarterback playing the role of Deshaun Watson.
It's incredible to think that he's been in school so far that long. I mean, again, most people are worried about picking out their tux for their prom their senior year. He's been on campus since January. You're right, he was Deshaun Watson, but he has gone on to have an outstanding spring, dual threat guy. He's at what Lane Kiffin says, he is a quarterback who is athletic. He's not an athletic guy learning how to throw. He can throw the football, and he happens to be incredibly athletic. And I don't think coach has ever had a guy like that, whether you go back to LSU or Alabama. I know Blake Sims, but this guy might be at a different skill set.
And when you look at Hurts, you talk about an athlete, he looks like a guy that could play another position. And you don't normally see athletes at quarterback that look like he could line up at running back or line up at wide receiver. And Hurts has that kind of body frame, and you see him take off here.
They're going to whistle him down there at the 30-yard line, so that'll be short of the line to make. But he impressed many this spring. In the first scrimmage Bama had, he ran for 57 yards on 10 carries. When they did their timing, he ran a 4.5 flat 40. This is a good-looking athlete who they say, listen, not just a runner, good-looking, polished quarterback with upside.
Tess, you're 100% right. And again, I go back. Blake Sims 2 years ago had a lot of success and really, I think, was a runner that was learning how to pass and learning how to read coverage. think this young man comes in ahead of the curve when it comes to his ability to read coverage, throw the football, and then happens to have that creativity that you just don't see much from Lane Kiffin offenses over the years or Nick Saban's offense.
Now the 6'5" J.K. Scott is getting his leg worn in early on here as the offenses have struggled to move the ball against Nick Saban's defenses. Much more to come from Tuscaloosa when we return. Stay with us. College Football Playoff National Championship Trophy presented by Dr. Pepper. Next year's game is going to be played January 9th, 2017 down there in Tampa. Alabama proud to show off that championship trophy. The second program to ever win 4 national titles in a 7-season span. We've seen 3 of the 4 quarterbacks competing for the starting job here in Tuscaloosa. And back to action with Cooper Bateman, who airs it out downfield but is beyond Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, of course, the breakout star last year.
All these no huddle things, all they do is scare your signal. Like Clemson, they had every one of our signals. How was that?
Calvin Ridley, the last 10 games prior to that title game, he was responsible for over 44% of Alabama's receiving yards. Here's Bateman to pass again. And complete for a first down to Robert Foster. And guys, good to see Robert Foster out there back healthy.
Yeah, and Joe, as you know, they have a very, very talented group of wide receivers with Stewart and Ridley. Had so much success a year ago. Foster back after the injury. He has the black jersey on for no contact. But they feel, here comes Howard into the game as well. Just those 3 and Howard alone give them great experience, great talent. A lot of these guys had a lot to do with the 15 season. And we throw in some of the younger players that they have coming in. They feel very good about that group. Almost a reverse of where they were a year ago.
Here's Bateman again. See if he can get himself into a rhythm. He checks down underneath the Hale Henschkes. You brought up the depth at receiver. Richard Mullaney exits. He came in as the grad transfer. Foster back healthy. Stewart started to blossom as the year went on. But Foster, Ridley, Stewart, Cam Sims, and another grad transfer, Joey, coming in is Garrett Dieter, who is a record setter in the MAC.
And honestly, I think that's the reason here at Alabama, when you don't have a quarterback and you're searching, that's why you can still be successful, because of those athletes on the outside. Ridley made some plays for this offensive team last season. The touchdown against Florida into triple coverage, the catch on the sideline against Tennessee that was thrown up on a crucial third down. The athletes on the outside, the athletes in the backfield is the reason why this offense, even with a quarterback that they are developing, can still be successful.
You know, I had Alabama early in the year last year a couple times, and the Ole Miss game stands out to me. They were still searching for confidence in the passing game. Ridley really developed as the year went on, and I think the quarterbacks obviously developed. The big mystery here is they have talented receivers, but who's going to throw the football to them? I think, listening to Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin, I think they have a great deal of confidence in where that position will be by the time the season gets underway against USC.
There's a 3rd and 5 that falls incomplete as he was looking for Scarborough. Now, this started the conversation with Ardarius Stewart. Remember, all that was made of Calvin Ridley. Then the championship game comes along, and really in the big spot against Clemson, Ardarius Stewart to put him in position. This was the 38-yarder to the Clemson 18, and that set up the game-time field goal at 24-24. And that was really a critical moment when they needed it most. As J.K. Scott's punt goes inside the 10-yard line. Dalen Charlotte with the fair catch there. A reminder that tonight after the NBA playoffs, it is Sports Center at night with Max and the coach. They will get you all the highlights and analysis from a full day of the NBA playoffs at Sports Center at night after the Mavs Thunder right here on ESPN. So Cooper Bateman, 3 of 7. Blake Barnett, 2 for 2 for 18 yards. And the second go-round now for Jalen Hurts. And here is Hurts. You get a glimpse of his ability to tuck and run. The true freshman, early enrollee from Channelview, Texas. Lane Kiffin says by far the most athletic of all the quarterbacks.
I held it away, but I could.
That is the end of the scoreless first quarter from here in Alabama. Much more to come. Crimson and white on A-Day. Stay with us.
In the Southeastern Conference, you could fill a book with the stories of our athletic success. But our student athletes are doing more than excelling in competition. They're doing things like collecting goods for underprivileged families and spending time reading to school children. See, our athletes are doing more than just changing the game. They're changing the world for the better.
Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry, Alabama's only 2 Heisman Trophy winners, as Hurts tries to escape pressure and then was whistled there. But Damian Harris making his bid to replace Derrick Henry as the starting running back. This is the group heading into the 2016 season. Scarborough's the big back, very capable. Harris, former #1 overall ranked running back prospect from Kentucky. And B.J. Emmons will be coming in this summer. He's the #1 running back in this past ESPN 300 rankings.
You know, when you watch this offense, sometimes it doesn't matter how good you are at quarterback because the rush is coming so fast. You only have a couple seconds in the pocket, and you can see Hurts there with his ability to escape the rush, but you can see even on this play, I mean, they're coming. You don't have time to stand in the pocket and read a defense. You have time to get one read, maybe to your second read, but you got to get, because these defensive ends are coming.
Hey, that black jersey's kind of nice there when you're on the outside there, isn't it, Herbie? Young man, just diving forward.
Oh, yeah,
he doesn't have a thing to worry about.
You got to love that, especially when you're a dual threat guy.
Once again, the black jerseys you see today, if quarterbacks or injured players, they are not live. They're just going to tag off those players in the black jerseys. And it's Cooper Bateman has seen time, started the game with the #1 offense, the Crimson team. Yet to see David Cornwell, good-looking sophomore quarterback out of Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts getting extended playing time here into the second quarter. There is David Cornwell. He's got great arm talent. He's an Elite 11 quarterback, pro-style guy.
Big arm. I keep looking at this Harris, Damian Harris, and I like what he brings to the offense. Scarborough is a big physical back. Harris, because of his quickness, the way he gets through a hole, he complements Scarborough. They're probably going to end up using both of them in the fall.
Here's play action now for Jalen Hurts. Let's throw a little low into the inside. Getting back to the conversation on Damian Harris, Joey. Sometimes some of the traits and characteristics you look for and things you would attach to a player you hear in spring are different than in fall. In the case of Damian Harris, you'll hear people say he's showing maturity. He's able to compete better. He practices better. He has a better understanding and more confidence. That's where you see some of the growth in spring.
And generally speaking, for football players, that's where growth comes. You mature, you understand things, and then you let natural ability take over. If you have patience as a running back, we always talk about patience. Patience comes with maturity. You have the ability to realize, okay, this is where the hole is supposed to be. Let it develop, let it develop. Let my offensive linemen get their blocks, follow my fullback, let the quarterback make his reads. Those are all things for these running backs that comes with being a mature running back. And then when you have that part of it, you can allow your athletic ability to then just take over.
But I do think, especially with the injury this week to Ronnie Harris, that they're going to need the couple of these true freshmen to come in. You know, B.J. Emmons is a guy that has a lot of fanfare coming in this year, but Harris and Scarborough are the only two at this point that I think are really quality SEC backs until these freshmen show up.
Jalen Hurts on 3rd and 5. Wow. As he's able to just muscle that ball on a rope inside the 20-yard line. As Jalen Hurts driving this white team offense down the field, complete to Cam Sims that time.
And I think we can talk about, we just talked about patience, and you could see on this last play, Hurts makes a terrific throw, but he probably had more time to stand in the pocket, and that's being a young quarterback. That's being a quarterback that has seen a lot of pressure from this defensive line, and when you have that athletic ability, a lot of times athletic ability will make you leave the pocket before you necessarily need to. Had a little bit more time, and I'm sure this coaching staff would like to see Hurts have the patience. Let the play develop, stay in the pocket. When you have time, make your second and third read and get the ball out, even though he made a terrific athletic play.
And that just comes from more experience. He's been able to do that in high school and get away with it. In the SEC, he will not be able to do that.
0 for 2 for Adam Griffith here in the spring game as he misses the 47-yarder. Herbie, when we come back, I'm going to ask you what Lane Kiffin just said to you. I saw Lane walking over to you. I'm going to find out when we come back. Glad you're with us at the Alabama Spring Game as you're watching the SEC on ESPN. Joe Kirk and Joey with you here in Tuscaloosa. The first team offense only has 1 first down right now, scoreless here in the second quarter. That's the Crimson team. Guys, what did Lane Kiffin just say to you?
Joey was talking to Coach about this upcoming play, right?
Yeah, look for Ridley in the slot to go deep. This is one of those plays that we see during the fall when Coach Kiffin puts his hands up like this is a big one. Look for Ridley in the slot trying to get the deep ball.
Number 3, top side with Cooper Bateman under center. There's the play action. And he had a check down to Scarborough.
Hey, you know
all
what?
that buildup.
Hey,
I know, Herbie. I know, Herbie.
Here's what used to happen to me. Honestly, Coach Gruden would call a play. I would go to sideline like, hey, Coach, I can get deep. I got this guy. The safety's too shallow. He would look at me and say, look, unless you can block the defensive ends, I don't care how open you are. And that was one of those plays. You couldn't get deep because the rush didn't let Bateman read it out, but Ridley went deep. Just no time to get the ball out.
Here's Bateman this time, complete to Hale Henschkes, versatile tight end. I love this position you guys are in, about 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage and about 5 yards off the shoulder of Nick Saban.
Yeah, and it gives you even more of an appreciation for that defensive line and that pass rush. It's one thing for an Ole Miss or an LSU or an Auburn to call a deep ball. It's another thing to be able to execute it and to be able to actually have enough time other than maximum protection to be able to get that ball thrown downfield. You got to be very creative, like Clemson was, with misdirection, running game, different things to slow down that pass rush.
Now, big number 12 is in there, Joey, the quarterback David Cornwell, the 6'5 sophomore from Norman, Oklahoma.
You know what? And they talked about Cornwell and his arm. Has an incredible arm. The problem with guys with big arms, and I've seen it over the years, guys with big arms, it hurts their timing. And I will bet you a big arm has hurt more quarterbacks than it's helped them over my time of playing football, because the big arm guys, they believe that they can magically throw the ball through a defense that they shouldn't throw it to.
Yeah.
Cornwell's had problems with turnovers in the spring, has to clean that up and realize a big arm doesn't mean you can throw at 60. It means you can be deadly accurate throwing the ball at 40.
2nd and 18 after the sack by Tim Williams. And net right away that time was Henschkes.
You go back to the previous play where Tim Williams just not only got into the quarterback, but he went right around and through Scarborough, who was trying to block him and kind of seal the edge. That's something that Derrick Henry did a really good job of last year. It's easy to talk about Derrick Henry and all the running yards and all the things he did with the football in his hands, but he was also very, very good at complementing the passing game with effort in the pass pro. And something that whether it's Bo Scarborough or Damian Harris, they'll have to do a good job. I mean, Tim Williams is one of the best in the country, but he went right through Scarborough.
Here's 3rd and 16 now. As Cornwell once again feeling pressure and is just able to get it to Scarborough.
You appreciating 56 and wide as much as I am. I mean,
you know something,
it's
Herbie?
almost unfair.
And Joey, you and I went to an LSU practice the other day. We were able to see Arden Key, who's like a missile off the edge. I don't know that there's a guy better at doing one single thing, a pass rush specialist right now in college football, than Tim Williams. Last year, 10.5 sacks, 12.5 tackles for loss. He is the master at what he is asked to do, Herbie.
What play do you want to call? You can't roll out.
Draw.
You talked about
Call
you roll
draw.
out.
Don't
he
throw.
runs through your running back. You can't get out of the pocket. And then you call a play when you stay in the pocket. And he comes around your tackle. Herbie, I don't know what plays you have on your play card, but what do you want to call when you have a defensive end that you can't get around,
honestly,
and you can't stand
you
in
know
the
what
pocket?
you're going to have to do? You're going to have to test him in the run game. That's the one area. Last year he was in as a specialist. 3rd down he would come in. This year he's going to be an every down guy test, and that's the part of his game I cannot wait to watch, is to see him be an every down player, sealing that edge and showing that he can be physical against the run game. We know how quick he can get into the backfield rushing the quarterback, and teams are going to know that, but I think it's going to be important. And look at his legs. He looks a lot thicker than he did as the season ended last year, and I'm sure that's to get ready to play every down and defending the run.
Yeah, great tool for this guy, Jeremy Pruitt, his first year as Bama's defensive coordinator, was here on the staff for many years, won national championships here, then went over to Florida State, won a national championship, then spent the time at Georgia, coaching transition there, of course, comes over here. It's interesting, Joey, Jeremy Pruitt was able to arrive here in Tuscaloosa in time for the transition. He was around Kirby Smart while they were preparing for the national title game. He was really able to get a jump on things in the transition.
It really was. And how about inheriting a defense like this at Alabama, and then you add in the fact that he's been here before, he's been with Coach Saban, and the difference for him now, you know, after being with Jimbo Fisher, after being with Mark Richt, and being around guys that are offensive coaches, you step in to be the defensive coordinator under Nick Saban. With the wealth of talent you have, the success, the ceiling is extremely high for this Alabama defense. And then he said, you know, a lot of people would be amazed if they had never worked for Coach Saban again, but he's had that opportunity and then steps back into it. This defense should be just as good, if not better, than the defenses we've seen in the past.
Right now it's the Crimson defense, the number 2s going up against Blake Barnett and the white team offense. That was thrown behind the intended target. Blake Barnett, the recent issue in spring has been turnovers. In the last scrimmage, he threw 3 interceptions. A lot of folks around the program, Herbie, thinks he's pressing a bit, that he was supposed to be the guy, and he's trying too hard to be the guy instead of just making good decisions.
Yeah, that's part of maturing and being able to handle that. He came in as a 5-star, can't-miss guy. Came very close last year to winning the job. In fact, it came down to that last scrimmage where he did not have a great day because of turnovers. He threw 2 pick-sixes, and I think it's just a matter of having so much confidence. You press. You're trying to make a big play every play, and in this offense, you do not need to do that.
Now the national championships earned under Coach Saban. 4 here at Alabama. He has 5 overall. The most recent, a thriller. 45-40 win over Clemson out there in Arizona. And Alabama, king of the hill again. Their 16th claimed national championship. Here's Blake Barnett back to pass. As that was nearly intercepted that time. Sean Burgess-Becker. As Tony Brown deflected it away.
They're going to have to go deep, Tess. I mean, seriously, when you watch the defensive backs and how they're playing, and that was about a 12-yard hook. And when you see defensive backs breaking on a hook, offensively you think we got to go deep to back these guys off and make them respect our ability to run past them.
Barnett again. And this time he gets it complete for a first down.
Joey, in normal circumstances, of course, that's what you have to do. But, you know, in spring games, you're so limited in what you can do with the plays. There's so many restrictions on what the defense can do and really what Lane Kiffin and the offensive staff can do. But they definitely have a deep ball in there.
Damian Harris, who's had some moments where he has flashed this afternoon. Blake Barnett is 3 for 5. Hurts 2 for 3. Bateman 5 of 9, and Cornwell 2 of 5 passing.
Coach Saban getting after him a little bit about a little bit more urgency. Even though it's a spring game, it's still a great learning opportunity as you get close to a 2-minute drill about trying to get the ball down the field, get into field goal position or score a touchdown.
2nd and 5, and that is just ahead of the line to make to Miller Forrestal.
A nice job by Barnett standing in the pocket. They brought a blitz off the left side. Running backs slid over, picked it up that time, giving Barnett a chance to stand in the pocket. Did a nice job realizing the blitz is coming, but you're protected.
Yeah,
when you have that protection, stand there and get the ball out.
Don't you feel like there's a presence about 8? I mean, you could just feel that. You could see what people get excited about his game.
How about that going up and snagging at that time? Cam Sims, 6'5" target for Blake Barnett.
And at 6'5", has the ability to climb the ladder and make a catch. Remember, they're looking for that 3rd and 4th receiver with Foster coming back from an injury, Sims as well. He will have a role in the fall with this offense.
You know what's interesting is Lane Kiffin, I remember, said to me just about a year ago, now this is before Sims got injured, he says he actually is set to play that Amari Cooper role. Now, obviously, things change. You get injured, other guys blossom and emerge, and such was the case with Calvin Ridley. But I think the plan for Sims all along was to be something special in this offense.
We'd all like to play that role.
Yeah, get the ball 9% of the time.
Yeah, and I think Ridley
guy.
pleasantly surprised a lot of people last season and becoming that guy that the quarterback can lean on. Every quarterback needs a receiver to know, hey, look, when I need to make a play, you're the guy I want to go to because I believe in you. And that's why we saw later in the season the numbers for Coker got better and better, not because they were great reads at times, but because the trust in Ridley's ability to throw the ball up, even if it's double, triple coverage at times, and watch him make a play. And the last play going the other way, that's what I'm saying. Give Ridley a chance. He's proven to be that kind of guy that can outduel a defensive back to get the ball.
And Tess, Joey knows being a receiver. When he was at Ohio State, from the very first time he got a chance to get out there to emerging throughout that first year, he became a totally different player. So it's very natural and normal for receivers. The game's moving fast. There's noises. It's just a little intimidating. You're just trying to not make a mistake, whereas at the end of the year, Ridley was making plays because of that confidence through game experience and just overall knowledge of the offense.
Yeah, look at those stats of comparing Ridley's freshman year to Cooper's freshman year. It is amazing. Calvin Ridley, of course, the 138-yard receiving game in the Cotton Bowl. Such a big part of the success that this offense had down the stretch. And just to get to a bigger conversation on the offense as a whole, guys, and not that we're seeing scintillating work out of Bateman and Cornwell and Barnett and Hurts, but you get the sense that they feel like they can be a little more fully evolved and dynamic with the totality of the playbook, with the skill sets that whoever emerges can deliver compared to what they were a year ago.
I agree with that. I think that's fair. I think it has as much to do with not just the confidence in quarterbacks, has as much to do with that experience on the perimeter. Now remember, we got to go back to that offensive line. We can draw all these plays up all you want, but until they solidify things up front, and Cam's not out here, and this is not their starting offensive line, then it will be when they get ready for SC. But that offensive line will play as big a part as who the quarterback will be.
And you can see the heat turn up a little bit. They drove the ball down. Barnett made a couple nice throws. And then the last 2 plays, pressure ended the drive, and the defense gets off with a field goal attempt.
Let's see if Griffith can hit one here.
0 for 2 so far today.
Nope.
Listen, this guy had one of the biggest plays in the national championship game. We're going to give him a break, right? The onside kick that he pulled off with 10.5 minutes to play. That little scoop kick. That was so accurate, Herbie, and I remember when you were calling the game, it was so accurate, it almost felt like a quarterback was throwing a fade route right into the hands of Humphrey.
Oh, it was beautiful. I mean, you could practice that over and over and over. I don't know, it's hard to place that ball any better than that. And not only that, the call, the guts, the timing of that call really changed the complexion of that football game. Tess, we were talking earlier today, Griffith started the year last year with some struggles, and then kind of found it's so mental with kicking, found his confidence, and then went on to have a big year. But he's got off to a slow start last year.
And Joey, that momentum in the game when Humphrey secures it over his shoulder, 2 plays later, the 51-yard touchdown pass, it puts Alabama up for good, and that was it right there.
That and the kickoff return.
Yep,
I think
Kenyon Drake.
The two things.
Flag is down here as Cornwell airs it out. came up
Hey,
short
there's your
for
buddy,
Ardarius
there's your
Stewart.
buddy Williams. Yeah, we had a receiver open downfield. Ardarius Stewart, he was open.
Yeah, he couldn't step into his
Doesn't
throw.
actually matter.
Yeah, but running back move, though.
Illegal motion, number 9 on the offense. Penalty is 5 yards. Replay, first down.
I think we need to put 2 guys on 56.
Yeah, I think you need more than that.
That may not help.
As you see, Tim Williams right in the face of David Cornwell. He's been right in the face of every single quarterback he's been opposite of over the course of the last 12 months.
Let's keep an eye on him here. Poor 78.
Here's Cooper Bateman.
I mean, that's a draw.
Ruben Foster was messing that up pretty good.
Usually on a draw, you hit your last step, and then you kind of bring the defensive rush to you. I mean, he hit his last step, and he turned over and looked over his left shoulder, and he saw Williams coming again. Again, the play has no chance.
And you guys joked about getting a tackle some help. Kervin is serious. He needs it. Someone's going to have to come over and chip. Herb, I don't know if it's going to be you. Someone is going to have to step in here eventually and chip Williams off the edge.
Let's watch Tim Williams here as we isolate him in the box. And that is incomplete.
No, that was not the same pass rush that we've been saying.
It wasn't. And Bateman, but that's the difference. When you have a good pass rush, Bateman looked like the rush was coming. You know what I mean?
Right.
Got back to pocket, got the feet chopping, and got the ball out as if the rush was coming. And at times, you got to realize as a quarterback, you have some time. Now, it's not often, but when you do, you have to take advantage of it.
So we got third down here. I think draw or screen.
Cooper Bateman with the #1 offense was today's starting quarterback. Back in there here. 3rd and long for Bateman. And here comes Williams again. There he is.
Nice. That is not fair.
Tim Williams off the edge all day long.
Well, you know what's going on right now? Opposing offensive coordinators in the SEC and at USC are watching this, and they already knew about him, but it's just a reminder about what they're gonna have to face in the fall. And the thing is, you can't just slide his way because, again, we don't even have Jonathan Allen out here. Ryan Anderson, Thompson,
Deshaun Ham.
It's amazing how gifted they are, considering they're going to lose 2 guys that are probably going to be first-rounders.
Start looking around the SEC with Myles Garrett at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Already mentioned Arden Key at LSU, Carl Lawson down there at Auburn. And there are DNs in the SEC this year that are just freaks. So Williams gets a well-earned break. And the offense yet to have a break. Both teams combining to go 1 of 13 on 3rd downs. 57 seconds remain until the half. As Cooper Bateman talks things over with Ardarius Stewart, we get to see young Mr. Hurts again. Jalen Hurts, the true freshman, early enrollee from Texas. Told you he was the scout team quarterback who helped them prep for Clemson, playing the role of Deshaun Watson, and he has really impressed in spring practice to this point. And so has this young man, Damian Harris, who he finds out of the backfield. Damian Harris will be a big part of the conversation in who gets the carries replacing Derrick Henry, the Heisman winner. A little bit of tempo now here for Jalen Hurts as he slings it just beyond the reach that time of Cam Sims.
All right, Joey, we got a run over here coming. Unless Kiff changes it.
That's what happens when you offensive coordinators get nervous. Your quarterback almost throws an interception and to triple coverage. Let's call a run. That's a lot safer.
And Damian Harris tried to jump back.
First down.
In there. It is indeed Rashaan Evans with the tackle.
All
Seeing
right,
more of Rashaan Evans on the inside.
We're going to go corner and up here. Corner and up.
You need protection now.
Yeah, he's going to need time.
You got to get some protection
or
on this
break
play.
contain.
He's got the protection. Now he's got a break. Get to the outside. And he will turn the corner past midfield. I'm going to mark him down actually right near midfield. You see he's not live wearing that black jersey. Lane Kiffin talking to Kirk Herbstreit as a timeout is called with 16 seconds remaining. What do you say, Herbie? What'd you get, Herbie?
Well, Tess, he's trying to give me what the offense is trying to do. He's got the headsets where he can still pick up on what they're doing, even though that right now the white squad has the football.
And I'm watching Coach Saban talk to Hurts after the last play, and a crucial play by Hurts. And being a young quarterback, the thing he did was he got tackled inbounds, and he forced the offense to use that last timeout. And Coach Saban's coaching him up, letting him know you have to throw the ball away, get it out of bounds, stop the clock so you can save your timeouts. And those are the kind of things you get with a young quarterback, and those are the coaching moments in these spring games that you expect to be corrected by the time you come back for the fall.
Saban described Jalen Hurts through 14 spring practices as being smooth as silk. A guy who can run, can throw it, very athletic. Great upside with this young man. Jalen Hurts.
All right, Tess, we're going high-low on 28 to the right here.
See if they can work it. Had to step up in the pocket and now extend the play, and in doing so, his only option was Damian Harris as it falls incomplete, and 8 seconds will remain as the clock now ticks down to 4. You get a tricky clock sometimes in these spring games, boys. They'll do as they please. Third and 9 now for Hurts. And he finds Derek Keith. Good effort here from Hurts just before halftime.
Hey, who?
Calling it 3 seconds remaining here in the half. As they are going to send the field goal team out there. Adam Griffith trots out. This should set up as a 54-yard attempt from where he is. 0 for 3 is Griffith. He's got a long of 55 from last year. As he drills it low, and it leaks out to the left. So it's a first half that Adam Griffith would like to forget. Damian Harris did run for 91 yards in that first half. He was with the white team offense. Rashaan Evans had 12 total tackles, 7 solo. But goose eggs on the board as the defense is dominated. Head down to Kirk and Joey with Coach.
Coach, spring ball, it is what it is. What did you see there in the first half?
Well, I've been impressed with the young guys at quarterback, their athleticism. They made some plays. I think we're struggling a little bit on the first team with the first offense is having trouble with the first team defense up front. So they're distorting the timing of everything, so the quarterbacks haven't been able to operate. But Damian Harris has done a good job in the game. So there's some good things, but I always say in the spring game, when you don't score a lot of points, everybody says you're really bad on offense. Well, how about maybe you're pretty good on defense? So.
Yeah, and speaking of defense, Coach, we're watching Williams completely disrupt everything that the offense is trying to do. Were to be some adjustments to try to give Curvin, the left tackle, a little help blocking Williams?
Well, the 2 tackles on the first team without Cam Robinson is a little bit of an issue. 56 is a matchup for a lot of people. We really don't plan stuff like that in the spring game, but we probably need to, or Tim's going to ruin the game.
Thanks, Coach.
Tim Williams dominating performance, the pass rusher. Tim's going to ruin the game. He basically ruined it for the offense in that first half. More to come from Tuscaloosa when we return. We welcome you back to the Alabama Spring Game as you're watching the SEC on ESPN. Joe Tessitore with you here in Tuscaloosa. Scoreless between the White and the Crimson. Damian Harris did rush for 91 yards, but Tim Williams and the first-team defense dominating the action here in T-Town. You know, Coach Saban's had that winning formula for his 5 national championships. Last year's included an immovable defensive line, just the way it was years ago on his first title, a team that included our fellow analyst, Marcus Spears. Marcus takes us closer to the Bama big man on the D-line.
What's going on, ladies and gents? Marcus Spears here in the D-line room. I feel very comfortable in this setting, and I'm here with 2 really good defensive linemen. I call them my fraternity brothers. Even though they go to Alabama, I'm an LSU guy. They know that this is a big frat. Good to see you, Jonathan Allen, Davin Tomlinson. Hey, man, let's just kick it off because I'm so interested. I've never seen a defensive line like that last year. Tell me a little bit about what made you guys that good and what made that group special up front. I'll start with you, buddy.
Man, I probably say it's our mentality. You know, every day we go to work, you know, we demand good from each other. So if one of us having a bad day, we all gonna get on it. You know, we expect more out of you. So, you know, we really just play well together. You know, we just held each other to a high standard.
So this year you lose Reggie, you lose Ashawn, you lose Jaron. Who are some of the guys that y'all looking to step up in some of those roles, and how is the depth now on the defensive line? Do y'all feel good about when y'all come off the field, some other guys can come in and get it done?
I mean, I feel like we have great depth. You know, we have a bunch of young guys who they should be excited as hell for the opportunity to step up and be a part of something so special. So, you know, they've been doing a pretty good job this spring, but still got a long ways to go, and that's for everybody, not just them. So, I mean, I feel like if they do what they got to do, they can definitely step in and be key players for us.
If somebody was to ask you guys the question, what does it take to be a defensive lineman at the University of Alabama, how would you describe it?
Got to be a dog.
Yeah.
Them trenches ain't no joke. You can't be scared. You got to be a dog to go in there.
You got to be a monster going in there.
Exactly.
You hear people talk so much about the SEC. Is the game won in the trenches in the SEC?
Oh, it is.
Every game.
Every game.
Every game.
Derrick Henry was the Heisman Trophy winner Is it won by running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers, or is it won by us, D linemen and offensive linemen?
D-line and O-line, because he won't be able to run like that if he have O-line.
There you have it. I love these guys. It's all about the trenches, baby.
Good job, Marcus. That D-line may need to dial it back a little bit in this spring game. Scoreless here in Tuscaloosa. More to come when we return to the Alabama spring game. Been fun to see the true freshman quarterback Jalen Hurts, who Coach Saban thinks a lot about. Coachable moments as well today.
Jalen, we only got one timeout. Are you going to run for a touchdown?
No, sir.
Well, then why don't you run out of bounds? Now, they called you tagged inbounds. We got to use our last timeout. Situation in the game. What's more important, 5 yards or the time?
Now some former quarterbacks, John Parker Wilson, Blake Sims, taking part in the activities today. We'll find out who the next Alabama starting quarterback is. Find out this fall. 4 competing for now. There's John Parker Wilson. He jumped out of our screen moments ago as we got a glimpse of Jake Coker. 4 quarterbacks trying to see who will be the man to replace Jake Coker. Cooper Bateman started the day. Whereas Coker coming off the national championship well-earned ring. Bateman and Cornwell and Barnett and Hurts all in action here in the Alabama spring game. Second half when we return to T-Town. See what Lane Kiffin offers up here with this Crimson team offense. The number ones who have struggled against the number ones on the other side of the ball. Cooper Bateman started the game, and here he is pressed up against his own goal line. Bateman 5 of 11 for 37 yards. A sprint, looked to throw back, and then burn it.
This is how confident we are, Tess. Joey and I have been hustling in the first half.
You're not moving, are you?
Now we're not moving. Well, the ball's it's coming back this way in a little bit. It's the 3 and out. Yep. Offense will be over here, so we're thinking ahead of things here.
We want to look at it from the defensive perspective.
Sure you do.
And I
got
couldn't
great
tell.
confidence that they're not coming this way.
Yeah, was the quarterback out of the pocket? Because if not, that's in the end zone. Tess, you got a better view than we do. From the end zone, you throw that ball away. That could be a safety. And there hasn't been many points out here, so a safety would matter.
Scarborough wrestled down at the 9-yard line.
Tess, what do you give me to go to about the 30 and just take a seat?
Why not?
just lay down. I may just lay down up here on the 30. That's how much confidence I have that they're not moving the ball in our direction.
Well, 56 is out there.
As long as 56 White, 22, 54, 10, you got to like your chances.
It was funny to hear Coach Saban's remarks at the end of the first half when you asked him about Tim Williams.
Yeah.
I think maybe you got to get in his ear and ask him to dial it down a notch.
Well, I think the Crimson has 21 yards of offense coming in to start this series.
Here's 3rd and 7. Let's see if you guys are correct. And there was movement up front.
This is the best place to be right now because I guarantee you Coach Saban is not. He's going off back there. He's not happy right now. Yeah. They've struggled on offense. They struggled to block Williams. And then you have, when you're backed up, these kind of penalties kill you on a struggling offense, and you put yourself behind the 8 ball, making it even a 3rd and longer in a situation. Can you imagine 56 right now?
Yeah.
Is looking at the sticks, thinking
he went hard count trying to get 56 off balance a little bit in his own line. Left guard ended up jumping.
There is Tim Williams with a hand in the dirt on 3rd and 11. That's a quarterback and a tackle's nightmare. Bateman. They gave him time. He launches downfield. Boys, you may have to get out of the way.
Oh!
They almost reached you there as Eddie Jackson came
I almost went over to
break
catch
it
it, I'll
up.
be honest with you. I forgot where we were working. I almost jumped in.
Meanwhile, I took off running. I threw you in front of me. That was a fight, I think, between two defenders. Eddie Jackson had a chance at that ball.
See Eddie Jackson, who's a
I didn't see
tremendous
a receiver really have a
safety.
chance.
He is locked in as one of the starting safeties based off last year alone. 6 interceptions. Been limited at times in spring with some injuries. Here's J.K. Scott from his own end zone. Coach Saban and the mighty defense with Jeremy Pruitt. Of course, he has led so many defenses before in terms of being a leader. Fortune magazine released their list of the world's 50 greatest leaders. You got the CEO of Amazon. You got Chancellor Merkel of Germany. You got the Holy See, Pope Francis. You do have an Auburn alumnus in Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. And then the highest ranking sports figure among the world's 50 greatest leaders is Nick Saban. That according to Fortune magazine, releasing that list recently. Guys, we're blessed with the opportunity to sit with Coach a lot, prepare for game broadcasts, spend some quality time with him. It does not take long to understand how he sees the big picture of everything in life.
Well, and what impresses me so much, and we talk about it so often, is just the consistency of it. You know, you see it, whether any sport you're talking about, you see a team that can have a big year, a couple big years, but it's hard to maintain it for 8 or 9. I think of teams like the St. Louis Cardinals in baseball, the New England Patriots would definitely fit that category. And what we've seen from Alabama since 2009, and it's because of the way he's always evolving, always growing. It's not like he said, well, this is the way I did it at LSU and the way we're going to continue to do it. He's changed in the last 3 years. He just always wants to learn and continue to be better than he's been.
Anthony Jennings able to tag Jalen Hurts.
Which requires amazing intensity, Joey.
It does.
Intensity and willingness to get up every single day and go to work at it. You know what I mean? Not take a day off, not take a playoff here or there. Every single day expecting not only from himself but the people around him to have the same drive, the same intensity, the same desire to be good. And it doesn't help when you're bringing in these athletes, as we're standing here next to some of these guys, and the look of some of these athletes down on the field for Alabama, not just the guys on the field, but the ones on the sideline. You can see how they continue to just reload. Even the guys on the sidelines that don't have pads on, you look at them and say, man, that guy's huge. These players, offensive and defensively, are as good as anywhere I've been.
I think Urban Meyer and Nick Saban have the best ability to recruit a 5-star player and make him realize that once he shows up on campus, you're really not that significant. Don't worry about your NFL career right now. That's not important. Have that dream, but that's going on the back burner. We're going to win. While you're here, we're going to win, and we'll worry about your individual success in the NFL later. And they've had so much. They're about to have 3 or 4 more first-rounders this year. They do that every single year. But while they're playing at Alabama, the focus is on winning championships.
You know, we're showing some of the accolades of Nick Saban through recent years. And to your point, Herbie, you get the right kind of guy because of that. It filters out some bad characters that would be a little more selfish, a little more self-interested. Now, you still get the guy that wants to get to the NFL, but he knows how he's going to arrive there by buying into the process.
But Tess, I got to tell you, because again, we've witnessed this firsthand when a lot of things are closed to the media. We see this team, since going back to that 09 team that beat Texas, they self-police. Rolando McClain was kind of the alpha of that team in 09 when they beat Texas. And I saw some things in a practice and the way he handled some young freshman 5-star guys that Nick Saban didn't have to do that. Kirby Smart didn't have to do that. Rolando McClain did that. And then that, Hightower did that. C.J. Mosley did it in his own way. We saw it last year with Reggie Ragland, and that's the big thing. Is Reuben Foster going to be that guy? Is Ryan Anderson who's going to be that guy this year? But they've had tremendous leadership from within the organization, not just a coach yelling at a player. It's the players yelling at each other.
They had a big one down the sideline to Ridley. They just missed Ridley down the sideline. That'll absolutely be a play that Coach Kiffin will go back on film and talk to his quarterback and say, hey, These are the ones. These are the ones that I put my arms up and have a big one. And I guarantee you Ridley goes back to the huddle, as any good receiver does, and it has a discussion with his quarterback. I was open.
Yeah.
David Cornwell in at quarterback. Here's Scarborough. He was wrestled down by Reuben Foster, the first to get there.
They may have missed their one chance, too.
Remember, Scarborough's the guy who's the bigger of the two backs that are being featured today. He's 6'2", 230, so more in line with what was offered with Derrick Henry last year. Damian Harris has had the better day. Got a little more wiggle to him. 5'11", 214.
And this is the struggle, setting up a 3rd and long. This is what the Alabama defense wants you to be in. And if you miss a play on 1st down and then run it on 2nd and you get into these 3rd and long situations, here comes 56 off the edge. Here comes these defensive exotic looks that are tough to throw into. And again, you have to start making this defense pay. On that 3rd and long, that's a play that could be completed downfield. You have to take advantage of it.
You know we're playing for a steak, right? Whoever wins here is going to get some steak.
Yeah, they go old school here for A-Day. The winners get the steak dinner, the losers, Franks and beans.
What I want to know is, do we get a steak either way? Because
I think first score should get the steak the way this game's going.
Sudden death steak dinner, Herbie. Busy day for J.K. Scott again with all the struggles. First team offense. A great time of the year with the NBA playoffs getting underway. We've got more Game 1 action coming your way. The Celtics and Hawks. That is 7 Eastern on ESPN. Then doubleheader continues with the Mavs and OKC. Westbrook, KD, and the Thunder. Both games are streaming live on Watch ESPN. Galway, you and I are going to sit back, get some grub, watch a little NBA playoff action. You up for it? That defense has been primed. Jeremy Pruitt in that group. Sean Dion Hamilton and Reuben Foster. A lot of talent off to the NFL, but a lot of talent remains ready to take the next step. Derek Gore with the carry.
I just yelled over to the defense, we need a pick 6. That may be the only way we score.
Hurts hands off again to Derek Gore.
Oh, did you see Rashaan Evans shoot that gap? I was talking to Coach earlier. He's 32. With the loss of Reggie Ragland, you have Reuben Foster in the middle. The linebacker play is so important in this 3-4 defense, and they're hoping that Evans can pick it up and learn by the time they get ready for their first game. There's so much to learn when you move from the outside, where he was more of a rush specialist, to now trying to be an every down guy in the middle. That was great to see his instincts there and shoot that gap and have the ability to penetrate.
You know, the one thing I always think about guys with Rashaan Evans, and I remember even his freshman year when he was playing special teams, he goes 100 miles an hour and will throw his body recklessly into anything on every play. And there he is again, and he's able to get Jalen Hurts.
Right on cue. And I was watching him that entire play, and we're down in the field. I don't know if you have a replay of that, but it was amazing to see the speed that as you were saying, 100 miles an hour. Joey and I were seeing him go at 100 miles an hour.
And I think the way we're seeing Hurts play in this second half, maybe there was some discussion about sitting in the pocket and reading the offense, because the last 2 drives you could tell he's starting to stay a little too long now. Yeah. Needs to take off on the last play, nowhere to go with the ball, let your athletic ability take over. And that's a young quarterback has to learn that there is a place where I have to stay in the pocket and read the defense, and then there's a place where the clock has gone off. Let my athletic ability move the chains, and let's live the fight another day.
Now, Rashaan Evans, 16 tackles, 8 solo tackles in this spring game. Now, some of the storylines this spring surrounding Alabama, of course, Jeremy Pruitt, welcome back to Tuscaloosa. Had success when he was here earlier on the staff, then won a national championship at Florida State. The quarterback competition, not much separation today, but they feel overall confident with where it's all headed. And they're replacing all the talents from a year ago The champs are having their A-Day game as you're watching the SEC on ESPN. Joe Kirk and Joey with you here in Tuscaloosa on a day when Coach Saban continues to nurture his freshman quarterback.
Jalen, you got to get rid of the ball. I mean, I know it's an over route. I know it's long development. I know it's max protection. But we can't take sacks, man. We can't get negative plays.
Gotten a look at Jalen Hurts. Good-looking true freshman, early enrollee athlete, as well as Blake Barnett.
Hey, I love how he's approaching. It's just his way. I love how he's involved in talking to these quarterbacks, trying to help them. Lane just telling me a little out and up. Same play they used against Michigan State to Ridley here against Eddie Jackson. See if they can get him.
There's the move. Here's the throw. And it's far to the outside as Eddie Jackson had coverage on Calvin Ridley. Guys, let's get everybody up to speed on the 4 quarterbacks today. Not much to make of it. Is there anything you take away, perhaps something you didn't realize about this group that you've seen today?
For me personally, nothing. I mean, I don't think you've learned anything today and said, oh, wow, how about this, good or bad. I think Blake Barnett, for me, you can just see the skill. You can see the talent that he has. And it's really just a matter of making better decisions. I think Blake Barnett will be right in the middle of this, even though throughout spring he has struggled and maybe dropped a bit. I think by the time they get ready for the game in Dallas, I think you'll find that he'll be right in the mix. He's just got to be smart and make better decisions.
I think as you look at Hurts out here today, and we played the 2 audios of Coach Saban talking to Hurts and explaining to him part of the game, you realize that this kid was reading high school defenses not long ago, and now he's going against an Alabama-style defense, and there's a growth part of that that's going to have to come with maturity. As finally we go downfield, Herb, nice call. Herb Street, you call that one, nice call.
Yeah, that was me. That was me.
David Cornwell to Calvin Ridley, and now Lane Kiffin and that Crimson team knocking on the door with a 33-yard reception.
They caught him in a blitz, and they caught man-to-man with Ridley against Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson 4 is a veteran guy, but that is a matchup any quarterback would love to have, is Ridley going to a post corner against a safety. It's like getting Joey Galloway lined up against a safety. We take that all day.
He can still run it, too, let me tell you.
I always tell quarterbacks, if it's a receiver against a safety man-to-man, take the receiver. Safeties can't cover.
There's first and goal now with Cornwell in the gun. Looking to the left, keying there, throwing to the corner, and beyond Ardarius Stewart. Minkah Fitzpatrick had coverage. Minkah Fitzpatrick is an outstanding young defensive back.
Yeah, goes from that star position where he's been over the slot as a freshman, now out to corner for Cyrus Jones, who moves on to the NFL. This secondary has a lot of experience. Marlon Humphrey on the other side. And the safeties with the freshman Rodney Harrison becoming a sophomore, Eddie Jackson, kind of the veteran of the bunch in the back. And this will be a very, very good secondary by USC.
Second and goal run, Scarborough just trying to move the pile, wrestled down just inside the 5-yard line that time. Deron Payne and Ryan Anderson there.
This is where having a dual threat guy or a threat of a quarterback really can open up your playbook. You know, if there's the threat of that quarterback running a zone read, you know, the defense always has to be aware of that, so it makes it easier to do other things like run the football or throw the football on the perimeter. But with Cornwell, that is not an option.
I think our approach as we're looking at this game is how can they get points on the board. If you're coaching this, you want to see your quarterback maybe operate a pass in this situation down in here, because you're going to need him to prove that he knows what to do.
Here's third and goal. Cornwell has time and threw it to the outside of Stewart.
He felt that pressure. Stewart, like an inside move, then back to the outside. He was isolated one-on-one against Minkah Fitzpatrick. And I think he felt and let that blitz, I think, ultimately impact his accuracy there.
I think at this point, any points would be good, especially the day they've had, not just offensively, but look at that bottom stat line on Adam Griffith, who's 0 for 4. Some long range attempts, and now the chip shot from 21 yards. So finally here in the fourth quarter, a score, a field goal by Adam Griffith. Senior kicker makes it 3-zip Crimson. Hope you've been enjoying the broadcast. I know a lot of fans out there with questions as to the immediate future of this Bama program. This one coming in on Twitter. Guys, how hard will it be to get the team all in on the sense of urgency to win like last year's team had? The one thing I will say here, Kirk and Joey, is that if there's any key word that Coach Saban guards against, it is complacency.
I think the only time we've seen that happen to Alabama was in 2010. After they won the championship, the first that Nick's had here. They came back that next year with a lot of those players returning, and I think they let that affect them. And I think they learned from that, and then they won 2 straight against LSU and then Notre Dame. I don't think that'll be a problem. I don't want to just act like it's a given, Joey, because you lose some key pieces. I've never seen a team so motivated from the players as that team last year with Reggie Ragland, a big part of that. Yeah. The defensive linemen with Reed and Robinson. I mean, they really did a good job of pushing their peers, and they're going to need other guys to step up this year and do that.
And we came down here on the bus tour in the summer, and we had a chance to talk to Robinson and Ragland and interviewed those two guys, and they told us that the entire defense is losing 10 pounds so that we become more athletic, a faster defense. And I don't know that I'd ever heard of an entire defense, each man deciding we're going to lose 10 because we were outrun, like we weren't athletic enough the year before, and the way the season ended to Ohio State. So they came in focused and look, we're going to be better on defense as a team. And as you covered them during the season, and even after the season, before they went into the playoffs, never seen a team so focused as the players. Talking to the players, and each guy focused on doing their job. And I think as you have that focus, and you talk about the leadership of the players, and you bring in all these 4- and 5-star athletes and letting them know now you're a part of us. It's just not you being a 4- or 5-star guy. You're part of us. That focus is why this team finished the way they did last season, and we'll see what they do this season.
Here's Blake Barnett looking over his options, trying to extend the play, going around Coach Saban. I think at that point the whistle has to blow.
Coach Saban might go nuts. Coach Saban, those are the plays. Those are the ones you can't have offensively, Herb. As a quarterback, you can't put your offense in that kind of situation. Clearly, the athleticism was not there to get away.
No, but I like his idea. When in doubt, run behind the blue jacket. If you get to the blue jacket,
excuse me, Coach, can I please hide here from your defense? Yeah. And I think when you're using your 64-year-old head coach as a human shield, the play should be exhausted. 2nd and 24. Barnett.
Wow, nice throw.
Good throw over the middle and complete that time is Xavier Marks. Marks is an interesting facet to the Alabama offense. Small guy, 5'8", 163, but a track guy. He can burn it up.
And the fact he's small and he's coming across the middle there, he threw that right directly over a defender, and then had the touch to come right down to a shorter receiver.
And that's what you talked about earlier. That's a receiver and a quarterback being on the same page, reading the zone, reading the soft area, get it out on time. Huge first down for this offense.
Here's Barnett again.
But see, that's where he gets into trouble. He makes a good throw, and this is exactly what's held him back from taking command of this job. Makes a good play, comes right back, almost predetermines in his mind. I was standing 5 feet behind him. He was looking left to affect the defense, to make them think he was throwing left. Immediately came back to throw to his right, and instead of reading it, he just anticipated that the play would be there, and he's very lucky that Rashaan Evans did not come up with an interception there. He did not read that. He just thought that looking off the defense would work for him. That you can't predetermine.
More from Barnett here. Just settles in that time and gets it completed. Crossing midfield that time was Derek Keith, 6'4" receiver from Cincinnati, Ohio. Crafty receiver, they say. Redshirt freshman from Corona, California is Blake Barnett. He was the target of so many power programs in the recruiting process. He had Irish eyes crying. He was thought to be the next great one up in South Bend. But flipped to Alabama in the recruiting process. Many thought he could be in the mix a year ago at this time, even as a freshman. And then at the end of this season, guys, we told you the prevailing thought was that, all right, Blake Barnett goes in there, good athlete, a lot of upside, can do it all. He'll win this job. But Coach Saban says he could be the guy, but his decision-making needs to be better.
And you can see the offense gets rolling and gets a couple first downs. What's coming from the defense? A blitz to the outside, gets a sack, and now creates that 2nd and long. As a quarterback, you got to know, you get things on track, you got to expect that defense to send a blitz at you. You can't take a sack in that situation.
2nd and long. Downfield, tried to throw a catchable ball, but it was short to Cam Sims, who had to slow down and had coverage with Kendall Sheffield. There is Sheffield, another one of these blossoming defensive backs behind some top-tier talent. Blake Barnett, 9 of 16 for 112 yards. 3rd and 19. And the pressure coming in once again that time, as it was Christian Miller, good-looking linebacker from South Carolina, who has shown upside.
Tess, I like the look of Christian Miller and would not surprise me at all. You know, every year they find guys for their specialty packages. They get 5 and 6 defensive backs, the nickel and the dime. Last year was Tim Williams and Rashaan Evans becoming those pass rush specialists. Miller, man, this entire game is not only getting pressure, but he's got an energy and an attitude about him that I think Alabama's defense can take advantage of in those specialty situations next year.
He just looks different. He's added 15 pounds of muscle. Having a good day today. Last week in the scrimmage, had a couple of sacks and a forced fumble. So a promising player in Christian Miller behind a group of very talented linebackers in front of him. Just that lone field goal for the Crimson team with 6 minutes to play here on A-Day. Back here at Alabama's spring game, a lot of Alabama talent off to the NFL. We remind you the countdown to the NFL draft continues. Tuesday night, 7:30, next episode of Hey Rookie. Welcome to the NFL. 8 o'clock, it's NFL matchup draft special. And then Gruden's quarterback camp with Christian Hackenberg and Cardale Jones. Double shot of Gruden's QB camp. Be interesting to see where some of the Alabama star players from last year's title team end up in the NFL draft. Linebacker Reggie Ragland could be very, very high on that list. Cooper Bateman and Bo Scarborough and that Crimson offense just beyond Coach Saban. And Ridley couldn't secure it. Twitterverse curiosity as to the Tide. Speaking of Reggie Ragland, who steps up and replaces Ragland as the signal caller on the quarterback of the defense? I mean, Reuben Foster's name has to be in the mix as a guy that's of great interest, right?
Yeah, I think that's the guy that they're hoping. It's the most natural. He had a big impact on this team last year, but there's been a great history and heritage of middle linebacker play with the intangibles. And that's the thing with Reuben Foster. We know he's going to make a lot of plays. Can he provide the intangibles that so many of these inside linebackers have over the years?
They blew that dead as the ball came out.
Because the middle linebacker, not with the tweet, not just sets the defense. He is the guy on the sideline that's talking to the defense. They're making adjustments within the game with Jeremy Pruitt, and they're going to be talking about what they need to do better. And he is kind of the eyes and the ears of the players, and he kind of is a liaison between the players and the coaching staff. So Reuben Foster has to prove to have that kind of ability, or somebody else for that matter. I think Eddie Jackson on the back end can do that.
I was going to say, when you have as much experience on your back end as Alabama does now with Fitzpatrick and the guys back there, your play caller, which is usually a linebacker, makes his job a lot easier because the guys on the back end have the same amount of experience that they can also get those calls from the sideline and not necessarily have to worry about getting it from just the linebacker at all times. So when you have that kind of experience, that play caller can be a safety, can be a linebacker, even a defensive lineman, because there's so much experience that guys also know how to look to the sideline and get those signals from the coaches.
Kirk, Jeremy Pruitt mentioned to us, he said, hey, listen, for me as the defensive coordinator, biggest change for me, I was just working with Jimbo Fisher and Mark Richt. Those are offensive guys. With Coach Saban, you got the defensive guy to lean on, to bounce stuff off of as well.
Absolutely. It's a different role as a coordinator. When he was here for those 6 years, he was a secondary coach, and Kirby Smart was working and being as the coordinator. And people know, when you and I and Joey, when we call Alabama games, it's very hard not to always talk about Nick Saban when it comes to the defense, but you got to remember that Kirby Smart had everything to do with the calls. Nick Saban would tell him, hey, let's try this, let's try that. He would offer obviously a lot of suggestions, but play in and play out, that coordinator, that's his job. And the jobs that he had in the past as a coordinator, as you said, they were offensive coaches. They pretty much would say, hey, see you Saturday, get them ready. And you ran the show, the entire show. Now he has a chance to rely on Nick Saban and have his expertise, which is maybe the best in football.
The Crimson and White teams split up here on A-Day game have now combined for 14 punts off the talented leg of J.K. Scott. Now that means a lack of offense. Tipped and caught this time. A fortunate bounce. Flag comes in at the end of that play with Cam Sims. That was Rashaan Evans getting involved in deflecting that ball as Jalen Hurts continues to get extended time.
Personal foul, face mask on the defense. That penalty is half the distance to the goal. First down.
See that time the right hand of Evans tipping the ball and right into the hands of Cam Sims. So a 1st and goal for the White team. And Damian Harris trying to turn the corner, and he gets to the 5-yard line.
And Urban, the more you watch Harris, the more I can see why you're excited about what this running back does. The patience we spoke about earlier, he is very smooth. Very smooth in his ability to read a hole and not panic when he's behind his offensive line and just take it outside if that's where it is. You can just see that maturity in him. And that ball
touchdown.
We look at the young quarterback, great throw, But Herb, from standing from back here, the ball could have come out a little earlier, and as a young guy, you'll get that
we got a
eventually.
touchdown, though.
That's all that matters.
Jalen Hurts to Derek Keefe, and finally a touchdown in the Alabama spring game, and it comes from the true freshman early enrollee, Jalen Hurts.
I go back. Remember when I was talking earlier about Cornwell down in that side of that 10-yard line and how you don't have a running threat? You're somewhat handcuffed as a play caller. Totally different set of circumstances with the athletic ability of Marks back there. And the defense has to be aware of that. They get their eyes on him running around. They lose their coverage of the receiver.
It was a good effort at the end of that play by Derek Keefe to stretch out on the sideline. Coach Saban has noted that he has done some very good things this spring. It's going to be a far different atmosphere from this relaxed setting of A-Day game come September 3rd in Arlington, Texas, when the schedule kicks off against USC. On the 17th, they get the revenge match at Ole Miss. Chad Kelly will be back to action for the Rebs. At Tennessee, a team with a lot of emerging talent, especially defensively. And at LSU, of course, traditionally the bye week comes there. Joe, you and I had the chance to go down to Baton Rouge just the other day and check in with Coach Miles and what's going on with the Tigers, the continued development of quarterback Brandon Harris. What did you make of LSU?
You know what, and I walked out of the meeting with Coach Miles, and the first thing I thought is, I don't know that I've heard a head coach sound so confident in the spring. All of these coaches, when you talk about spring ball, they all tell us about the problems they have and the injuries they're dealing with and how they have to find a new whatever it may be. Sitting in with Coach Miles, he is as confident in his team this season as I've ever heard him because they're talented. And I like what Brandon Harris did, especially in the first half of the season last year. And when you go out to practice and you see the ball come off of his hands, he throws the ball as well as any quarterback in the country. Now, if they can just get him to clean up some of the turnovers that plagued him late last season and then run the football, because there's a young man behind him as good as anybody in the country, in Leonard Fournette, that should be an extremely successful football team this season.
So that game will be November 5th at LSU, as we have 2:46 to play here, with now the white team up 7-3 on top of the Crimson. Cooper Bateman back in the game as he gets it complete to O.J. Howard, the star of the national championship game. But when you put that schedule up, Herbie, beyond LSU, what concerns you? The non-conference neutral against USC, the at Ole Miss, the at Tennessee. Where do you see as the circle the date?
I think a couple of those. I think the USC game athletically will be a good challenge for them, especially with a young quarterback. I think that'll be a great game in a neutral site. By the way, I applaud Coach Saban and others for taking those games on, and you hope that the committee looks at those games as they're evaluating and giving their rankings once we get to middle of October. But I think Tennessee, I know there's been already a lot of talk about their potential. Just because it's a rivalry game, they came so close last year with Jalen Hurd and Josh Dobbs. I mean, that team is athletic. I think they're more and more confident. That would be the game, I think, that if you're an Alabama fan, on the road in Knoxville in a rivalry game will be a really, really challenging game for them. I think a great game that will not only impact the SEC standings, but possibly, as we said, we're talking about the rankings for the playoffs.
And I think with Hurd and Kamara and Josh Dobbs and the development of Preston Williams, the wide receiver, it will be a challenge for this Alabama defense. Joey, we've had the chance in the past couple weeks, you and I, putting up with each other on the road, debating what we're listening to for radio channels in the car driving around the South. It's been interesting. You could have a docuseries, I would say, Herbie, but we've been able to go to Auburn, to Florida State, to Florida, to LSU, and here to Alabama.
Go back to the car ride. How's that?
The car ride was the great debate over talk radio or some R&B. And I'm good with anything, Joey.
You go 63, 64 miles an hour to 70.
64.
Safety first,
consistently without the cruise control. Does it all with his foot.
That's a steady foot right there, Kirk. But, Joey, what was, of all the places we've been to in the past couple of weeks, anybody pop to you? Is there any team you've seen where you say, this team is ready, this team could be it?
You know what I thought was interesting was Francois at Florida State, the quarterback. When when we watched him throwing the ball in practice, and being our first chance to really get a look at him in practice and throwing the ball and leading his team and running the offense, I was very impressed with not just the way he threw the ball, which was very good, but the leadership. And that's what you need from a quarterback. You need a guy that can step in and be a leader for your team. And he was that guy at Florida State. And I expect he may not start as the season gets rolling, but he's a guy to keep your eye on in the future because he's extremely talented and he is natural at being a quarterback.
I agree with you. DeAndre Francois was very impressive to see. And they are loaded with all 11 offensive starters returning. Of course, Dalvin Cook and even his backup Patrick, outstanding receiver, and Rudolph. Outstanding receivers here for Cooper Bateman and the Alabama quarterbacks. The question is, which Alabama quarterback will be able to take advantage of all the weaponry? Cooper Bateman here on 3rd and 3, and once again, having to just burn it. The #1 defense, that has been the white team today, with Tim Williams and Foster and Ryan Anderson and the group. Absent Jonathan Allen, has been having a field day. Cooper Bateman 7 of 19 for 56 yards passing. 4th down and 3. Going to give them every bit of work that they can get. And that is complete for a first down to Calvin Ridley. Nice security blanket there. Reminder that come Thursday, April 28th, it is the first round of the NFL Draft from Chicago. Starts at 8 Eastern on ESPN. It's also available on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. A lot of people curious. You know all the top line guys for Alabama come the draft as Bateman takes a shot downfield. Able to get it complete to our Darius Stewart. Just to wrap up that draft conversation, a lot of people curious how Derrick Henry fits into the mix and projects as an NFL player. They were able to celebrate his Heisman Trophy presented here today in Tuscaloosa.
I like the command and the confidence that Cooper Bateman's playing with on this drive.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Williams is now being double-teamed this entire drive. They've now put the tight end. They've now sent a back to help out the tackle to slow down Williams on the rush. And you can tell a difference in Bateman on this drive. He now has a chance to stand in the pocket and get the ball out without worried about Williams breathing down his neck.
And Joey's talked a lot about this when the offense has moved down inside the red zone, which we usually see in the fall from Bama's defenses. They crank up the pressure. And even though this is a spring game, you're still having, as an offensive line and your pass protection, still having to navigate and figure out where the pressure is coming from. Right now, for Bateman to his left off the edge is where Williams is.
There is Tim Williams off the edge. 2nd down throw, and pressure got to him, and Bateman throws it out the back of the end zone. Listen, 1:08 left. You got Lane Kiffin over there with the Crimson team. #1's the offense. He wants to come from behind her here. He wants to win this game. Trust me.
All kidding aside, as sloppy as this has been and as dominant as it has been for the defense, I mean, people are not sitting on the bench down here.
No.
I mean, they're playing not just for pride, but bragging rights and having a chance. They're trying to win this game. I mean, this is for real.
And a stake, which matters.
3rd down and 10. Bateman to the end zone. Intercepted that time. Ronnie Harrison, sensational sophomore safety, steps up and picks it off.
Oh my God, they're fired up. The red zone, the reason it's tough to throw the ball is the decisions have to be quick. Those safeties don't have to drop. They can squeeze the play, and Harrison read the play. He clearly got a great jump. The instinct's there to feel it. It wasn't so much that Bateman was really late. It was just that Harrison did a really good job of kind of anticipating what that route would be, and he jumped it. That White was giddy. The white team was giddy.
Yeah, I had to get on my toes there. I honestly thought they were going to run me over.
They're coming.
A big play by Ronnie Harrison as Jalen Hurts looks to finish things up. There's that takeaway belt, that turnover belt that Ronnie Harrison now holds on to. Ronnie Harrison is the poster boy of recruiting ranking services missing. This is a young man that had a verbal to UNC. Bama coaches saw him for 5 minutes and said, why are there not more stars attached to his name? They loved him in a camp. He flipped to Bama. He's from Tallahassee, Florida. Florida State comes in late. A lot of recruiting experts missed on Ronnie Harrison. He was awesome last year as a true freshman. He was an early enrollee, and he's continuing to develop into a role that often becomes one of the prime pieces of an Alabama defense.
It just goes to show that the rankings a lot of times are accurate, and many times they're not. Think about if Alabama did not offer Ronnie Harrison, what would his ranking have been if Alabama didn't make that offer? Because after he made the offer, everybody else said, well, if Nick Saban's offering him, we got to offer him. You just never know. And he is an athletic guy. Played quite a bit last year.
6'3", 216, and he can cover.
This game's not over just yet.
We got to hold him again. Let's go.
3rd down and 4. Jalen Hurts from his end zone, and it is complete for a first down. Give him some breathing room, Herbie, to Derek Keefe again. Keefe from Cincinnati had the touchdown catch.
That's a nice throw again by the freshman. With again, big 3rd down, backed up close to his own end zone. Puts the ball right on the money, keeps the clock moving.
Another completion this time to Miller Forrestall. I think a lot of people may be surprised with how much of Jalen Hurts they saw today. But he had a pretty good spring, and the coaches are very confident in him and love his upside. He dominated in some of the spring testing they did as well. Ran a 4.5. Power clean 3.15. They limited him on the squat. They said, you're not doing more than 4.55. This is a fine-looking athlete, Jalen Hurts. And able to get that complete to Damian Harris. Harris had a good-looking day. And for over 100 yards rushing. Dangerous in the open field with checkdowns. And Hurts again, as Hurts started off back in his own end zone, and just in this final half a minute has worked his way out to the 38-yard line. Why not one more for Jalen Hurts as he smartly slides down? As Hurts finishes the day 11 of 15, 120, and had the touchdown pass to Derek Keefe, the only touchdown of the day. The white team wins 7-3 over the Crimson. So they will have the steak dinner